my God, I just had such a good question for you. And I just looked at that's another thing with I don't know if my attention span right now with kids is like, I feel like I was like, oh, and then I look through the window and I'm like, dude, gone.
The mom brain, I like stays for too long. Yeah.
Okay. So talking about the patience, because today I think you posted on Instagram such a funny thing about patience.
Yeah.
Like, I
it's like a gift card. You don't know how much is left. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like, for me, how like I know you for like how little I know you, but for me, you seem like just such a, I don't know, you're like wonderful, wonderful mom, that's for sure. But what I mean to say is just that I imagine you as a parent, like you're so calm and so collected.
Oh gosh, no.
And when you post stuff like that, I was like, oh my God, is she like that too? Because like, oh my, I love that, you know?
No, me being calm and patient, I have to like really try with that, you know, like that's like, I have to put a lot of thought into that. I'm not a naturally calm or patient person. I don't know if that happened after I had kids or, if I've always been like very type A, you know, like I'm very organized and I want things done a certain way. And I feel like that, kids are not type A, you know, they're just like big balls of chaos and mess and disorder. So it's tested me a lot, a lot. So
how do you work with that? So you don't like, I don't know, you don't let it out on your kids, if I can see that. I don't know. You know what I mean? Not in the worst part, but like, because for me, that's the thing. Like how can I say that? Well, I've been yelled a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, like that was the way my parents were parenting. And I don't want to parent like that. But also it's sort of like, I feel like it's sort of like, that's my default.
Yeah, because
when I
that's what you know.
Or I get, you know, and I don't want to do that. So like I said, it takes so much work to actually not do that. And I catch myself, I'm like, Mav, and I'm like, why? I don't want to do that. You know,
I do the same thing. I can't tell you how
many
times.
Like, oh, I get so mad at me. And
I apologize a lot to my kids, to be honest. Like I screw up all the time and I will literally apologize to them. I'll be like, you know, I was thinking about this moment earlier and mommy didn't handle that the way I wanted to. Like, I shouldn't have yelled like that. And I'm really sorry. And that's not okay. Like, I apologize to my kids probably every day because I feel like I'm constantly trying to figure out a better way to parent them or a better way to manage their emotions while also managing mine. And it's hard. It's so hard. But one of the parenting like experts that I love listening to, her name's Dr. Becky, and she always talks about repair. Like repairing with your children is so important. Like we're going to screw up. Like that's just like we're humans, you know? And it's really damaging for you to lose your mind on your kids and not acknowledge it. Like everyone is going to lose their mind at one point or yell or snap at their kids. But the damage comes when you don't acknowledge it and repair, you know? So that's what I've tried to tell myself. Like I screw up every single day. I handle things incorrectly with my kids every single day, but I really try to be like intentional about admitting like to my 6-year-old, to my 4-year-old, to my 8-year-old, you know, like apologizing to them and saying like, I'm really sorry for the way I talked to you, or I'm sorry that mommy yelled at you to get your shoes on. I wasn't mad at you. I was feeling overwhelmed because we were late, you know, like just trying to explain things to them, because then I hope one day when they are feeling overwhelmed or they are feeling stressed and they feel those same triggers that I feel, I hope they can like talk to themselves and walk them through it. Like, I don't know.
This is what I'm feeling. And this is not,
Yes. Like I always am. I can't tell you how many times I've had to be like, you're not doing anything wrong. Mommy's feeling very overwhelmed and I just need a minute to myself, you know, like, because my kids trigger me. I think like kids are like the trigger for parents sometimes. And that's really hard to not take it out on them. And that's something that I'm going to have to like work on every day for the rest of their lives, because it's just one of those things that's difficult and I'm not perfect at it.
You know, it makes me feel like, I don't know, it makes me feel better to hear that coming from you, because I feel like also because you're a mom of 4, your like experience is like just you know, incredible, but also because like I said, to me you just seem like, you know, you're just made to be a mother. Like you're just
Oh,
so like soft in the sense of like with your kids and just like so
thanks.
motherly. And then when you say that, you lose it too. And like you know, you have these moments as
Yeah.
well. And I'm like, oh my
Oh
God,
yeah.
okay. So maybe that I feel like a more normal
Yeah.
mom. You know what I mean? Because
That's
I
how
would
I feel
really beat
because
myself up and I'm like, oh,
yeah.
why? Maybe then, you know, when it's very bad and you're very tired, and I'm like, am I gonna like damage my kid? You know what I mean? I'm like,
I
is he
worry
gonna be like,
about that all the time. I'm like, how badly am I screwing them up?
yeah,
Like
okay. Oh my God, I'm so happy we're talking about
I
this.
think about that every single night when I lay in bed. I'm like, dang it, like today I did this and today I did this. And I mean, as much as like you try to give yourself grace, it's hard because I feel guilty all the time. I feel guilty no matter what choice you make, no matter how you handle things. I'm always like feeling guilty for the way I talk to them or the way that we move all the time,
Yeah.
everything. And so I don't know. I talk about it a lot with Aaron, obviously. I apologize a lot. I try to listen to a lot of like parenting, like podcasts and things like that. And like you said, listen to other parents talk about how they lose their mind too. It's like, it's not because something is wrong with us. It's because parenting is hard. It's so hard. So I have to like
For
remind
sure.
myself of that because I get into like this shame spiral of, getting mad
Yeah,
at
and then you
myself.
wake up next morning and you're like, "Oh my God, okay." And then something goes wrong and you're just like a tiny bit wrong. It doesn't have to be like crazy, but then
Yeah.
you're already like, "Oh my God," because you already thought about the last few days that
Oh,
might have happened. And then it's like, "Oh my God, I'm just terrible. I just want to go sit down in the corner and like, why am I even doing this? Like,
yeah.
can anybody help me? Like,
Well, I always
what
say
am
like
I
I
doing to
start
the
the
poor
day
child?"
with like so much patience and I'm like, okay, let's put our shoes on. And then I'm like, okay, mommy asked you to put your shoes on. By the end of the day, I'm like, put your shoes on. Like this, because it's like I can only be so patient for so long, you know?
And like they're wonderful kids, like, but they just know how to push your buttons too.
Totally. They're smart. They know they know. They know.
Oh my God. It's funny to see at the same time as like I just wish like if when you wouldn't be overwhelmed and and tired and whatever, you just would maybe laugh about it. But when you're in
Yeah.
that situation,
But
you're
in the
like,
moment, it's really
"Oh."
hard. Yeah.
You can laugh about it after and like it's all yeah,
Yeah.
you're a smart
I'm
kid, but
like,
then in that situation it's just like, oh my God, just come on, hurry
yes,
up.
exactly. And then we get in the car, and then I'm like, Mommy is sorry. She yelled at you to put her shoes on.
Yeah. So what would be your advice like to when you're do you have some kind I don't know, I've heard about this thing when you have to count till 10 until you say something. So that sort of like helps me a little bit in that heat of a moment because I'm a bit of
Yeah.
like I'm like this.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm like get like that emotion and right now and I'm like no 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 okay okay okay. If I feel like the
Hmm.
same way after 5-10 seconds then I can like reevaluate and I hope
Yeah.
I'm not gonna feel the same, But like what is your advice in those situations when it's like you're about to snap and obviously you don't want to.
I mean, gosh, like it sounds really simple. A lot of times I literally have to like walk away and like take a deep breath because I can't like get my body enough to calm down to like talk to them the way that they deserve to be talked to in a nice way. So sometimes I literally have to like remove myself. And sometimes I'll announce it. I'll be like, Mommy needs a timeout. And I'll like walk away, because I just need to like decompress for a second. And the hard part is like, as you know, as a wife of a basketball player, like we don't have our spouses there that often to tag us out, like because when Aaron's around, I'm I need a minute. Like, can
Go to
you?
daddy.
Yeah, like I'll be like sub in. Like I need a substitution here because I'm about to lose my mind. But when they're gone, I'm like, it just feels like so much to manage the children's emotions and my emotions and have no one there to support you. Like, okay, I saw this online one time and this really like tugged at my heartstrings, and I think about it a lot. It was like it was this really cute quote, and I don't know it by heart, but it was talking about how when you're ready to like lose your mind on your kids and you're ready to snap and you're feeling really frustrated with them, look at their hands and look how little their hands are and like their little dimples on their hands, and just like that helps remind you how like little they are. So when I'm getting mad that they're not putting on their shoes, and then you look at their hands and see how small they are, and that like you know, my 4-year-old, as mature as she might seem and as old as she might seem, she still has like little baby fat and dimples on her hands. So of course it's going to take her longer to put her shoes on, you know? And so that really like hit home for me, because I try to like just like look at different parts of them and realize how little they are, because so often I will look back on pictures of them and I'll remember like, oh, I remember this stage of our life. I was so frustrated because she wouldn't sleep in her bed and she was always getting out of her bed. And then I look at the picture of my child and she looks so young. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was making her sleep in her bed. She looks like a little baby, you know, but at the
Grace,
time, it's
this
so hard.
happened to me this week. This literally happened to me this week. I looked at Mav's picture from Monaco, and
Yeah.
he was like 1.5. Had a second birthday there, and I
Uh-huh.
was like,
He
he's
looks
so
so,
tiny.
yes.
I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh my God, why did I want him to do anything? Like,
Yeah.
why?
Why
Oh
did you
my
ever
God.
want him to be independent?
I know, and that's what it really. But honestly, this week I just, and it just dawned on me. I was like, oh my God,
It
like I
kind of like
wanted.
rips your heart out, because I'm like, oh
Exactly,
my
because I was like, I
gosh.
want to take that time back now. Like, how
Hmm.
can I do this? You can't do that. That's
No.
done. But like, I just want to hope that I'm like, I wasn't too harsh on him,
Yeah.
Because like, and also another thing, I think that Brock and I had that realization as well when, our kids are bigger in size,
Yeah. So they look older.
even though they're still the same tiny baby, not babies, but
Mhm.
like toddlers and whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that is also messing even with our heads as a parent,
I can
because
understand. Yeah.
you want more from them because you think
Mhm.
that they're not bigger, but it's also that, but
Yeah.
it's just sort of like, oh, surely you could be able to do that because like
Yep.
you're like, you know,
They're
and
larger than
then
the average human.
yes, and it's not that I'm comparing by size, but you know what I mean? You're just like,
Yeah.
oh, he's running like a, very well, like he's doing
Yeah.
all these things very well, and then suddenly he eats and like makes a mess on, and I'm like, dude, like, did you just do that on purpose? Like, why did
Yeah.
you do that?
But you
Like,
forget it's because they're two, or whatever.
exactly, because they're doing other things like more, not more advanced, but like, with like as the older toddler would do, let's say,
Yeah.
and then you just assume that they have to know how to do other things as well,
Exactly.
and then
Exactly.
you just like, oh no, but they're like, he's only like that age. Like that
Yes.
now for Mav, he's like wearing, I'm sure with the same with your kids. Like he's gonna turn 4 in 2 weeks. But well, he's when he's 3, he's wearing 6-year-old clothes,
Yeah.
right? So for us, it's like, yeah, I know he's 3, but also other people around don't know he's 3. You
Yes.
just
Everyone's
assume
like
that,
asking you how old he is. Uh-huh.
yeah, he's like, oh, he's 3, and they're
Yeah.
like, wait, in Japan, it's just like 3.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, yeah, 3. Like, I understand what
He's
you're
3.
asking
Yeah.
me. I'm actually telling you his age. It's
Yeah.
like, and yeah. So I feel like sometimes us as parents also like not forget, but in a sense, because you don't know how it's my first 3-year-old. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know
You don't have
how.
anything to compare to.
I,
Exactly.
I don't know what
Hmm.
he's supposed to do or what he's not supposed to do. I know that sometimes he listens and sometimes he doesn't listen.
Yeah.
That if he doesn't listen, is that a normal 3-year-old behavior? Or is that just, just him because,
Or
you're
is it
just,
just him pushing your buttons? Yeah,
yeah, pushing
exactly.
that, just being naughty, like just, and then he comes home and he's like, Mamita, he calls me Mamita in Lithuania.
That's cute.
He's like, I know that I was naughty today. I was like, well, congratulations.
He's self-aware. He is a self-aware 3-year-old.
Like, I know, but sometimes I feel angry, he said. But
Oh.
he was sitting in the car and it was so funny. Beth and I were here driving from some, day trip when guys are away. We just
Yeah.
drove somewhere to explore. And Mav's like, I'm so sorry I was angry. I was just hungry.
And you're like, I get it. Like, I
But
totally
when
get
he
it.
says stuff like that, then I'm like, well,
Yeah.
you're talking like a 6-year-old. Like,
Yeah.
you're actually talking like a 6-year-old. Like you know what I mean? You're like, to
He's able
recognize
to
this.
talk about his feelings.
Sometimes
Yeah.
I am, as a 30-something-year-old,
Yeah.
do not recognize that, Like, sometimes I don't. I'm just like
Totally.
pissed
I
at the
think that
world.
all
And
the
I'm like, oh my
time.
God, I
Like,
just need a little tea
you
or
need a
like a
snack.
little
Yeah.
hydration and a little snack, and I'll be fine. But I don't
Yeah.
recognize that until I'm like, "Ugh,"
Until you're
And
already
like, you're
angry.
sitting
Mhm.
there and you recognize that you are able to voice it to me. That is like, I'm so proud. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I'm like, you acting like an older little dude. So of course, then when it comes to the situation, the opposite side, where like, it's on the, the sort of not listening situation, and I expect you to listen because I know you understand way
Yes.
more.
It changes your expectations. And sometimes I do think like I have too high of expectations for them, like because of everything that we do in our lives, all the moving, all of the change, and like sometimes I'm like, okay, they're little kids, they're allowed to lose their mind because they want a snack, or because I said no to ice cream, or because like just because they're resilient enough to move to 9 different countries doesn't mean they can't throw a fit when I won't let them get candy, and so I think like the juxtaposition of the two is hard to like to understand,
As a parent as well, like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like expectations are up there because like, oh, you're like your
Yeah.
daughter. The other day I saw as well that she went to how many different schools in how many
Yeah.
countries?
She has, since kindergarten, she has been to, I can't remember what I said because I counted the other day. 1, 2, 3, 4 different schools in 3 different countries. 5 different
That,
schools in 3 different countries. And
that's
so, she
amazing.
does stuff like that that's so incredibly brave. And I'm like, you're my hero, but then, when I tell her it's time to leave the park or that she can't get a new toy, she still is upset because she's a kid, and
Yeah.
sometimes that's hard because I'm like, you went on a
You're
16-hour
braver
flight.
than a lot of people. Like some people don't leave their countries their whole
Yes,
life,
exactly. But you're gonna throw a fit about this tiny doll at the store, but then you have
Yeah.
to like I have to remind myself, like, she's still just a child. Like, as mature and as resilient and brave as she is, she's a child. Like, and she's allowed to act like a child.
Yeah.
So that can be difficult, I think, for me sometimes to understand. I'm like, how can you go from being so incredibly mature and brave to, throwing a fit about something that makes no sense? And it's because kids don't make any sense. They're not rational, like they don't have to be rational. Their brains are still growing.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. I'm loving this conversation, really.
Me
uh,
too.
but then, so how did she do in those schools? Like, what countries did she go in those schools, and how did she go? And is she easily adaptable then? Like,
She is like my most adaptable, which is amazing because I feel like it's always been me and her from the start. Like I said, we moved to Germany when she was 2 weeks old. And like together, like we are each other's constant, like
yeah,
Aaron is gone and we move houses all the time, but like she always has me, and I
yeah,
think that has caused us to have like such a special bond. And also it's what like that's the only consistent thing she has, and
yeah.
so but she's incredible. I mean, she started school in Belgrade when we lived in Serbia. So she went to kindergarten in Belgrade, and she learned Serbian. So she learned how to read and write in
I
Serbian.
remember that. That's crazy.
And
Does she
then
still remember any of it?
no, she doesn't, because then we came home to America and she started school in America. And then she went to school in Montenegro. Then we came back to America, and then she went to school in Japan, and now we moved homes in America, so she's going to a different school in America. So she is like always the new girl. She's always the one, just like going with the flow. And I really try to ask her, like, I asked her when we came home from Japan, I said, do you want to go to school here? Because, you're not going to know anyone and it's a new school. And she was like, yeah, like, I'll be fine, mom. She's like, everyone here speaks English. I'll make a friend on like the first day. Like, she wasn't even worried about it because she's so used to trying to navigate the language barrier that
Yeah,
once she realized that everyone here all speaks English and can understand her, she was like, psh, like no big deal.
yeah. Walk in the park, mom. I got
Yeah,
this.
I'm like, okay. And I was like, telling my family and telling Erin, I was like, I am definitely more nervous about her first day of school than she is. Like, I was so stressed about it because I'm imagining her like not having any friends at lunch
Yeah,
or at recess, and she like walked in confidently. And I'm like, I got to take a page out of her book because if I could have been that confident as an 8-year-old, I would have loved to see, what I could have accomplished.
but really, I feel like we're talking about all these things like well, the kids obviously have like down, like for them I feel like even for my 3-year-old now it's sad like to see him go. Like we spent a summer in Lithuania and we lived next to Gabby
Yeah.
and Ula, right? And they're born 2 weeks apart.
So
so
they have friends.
so
Yeah.
them two spent their first year of life in Istanbul, and when Edgaras was playing for Fenerbahce, we playing for
Mhm.
Galatasaray. So they like all they know is each other, um, and then now then the summers they always whenever they meet like it's amazing, right? But when they leave, it's
Yeah.
so sad. For Mav is, I mean, obviously for Ula, she just, she lives now in Lithuania for years and she like has her constants,
Yeah.
but like
But for
for Mav,
Mav, that's
he
like,
constantly leaves and he's like, oh,
yeah.
when can I see Ula? Or, like the
Yeah.
friend, or in Australia, he has Brock's best friend's daughters that we're very good friends with, and Mav loves them and they're always together when they're in Australia. So we leave and we're like, he's like, oh, I want to go to that with them. And we're like,
Yeah.
you can't just go with them. Like we can't go to the park with them. They're all the
It's
way
hard
like
to explain
hours.
that to the kids.
Yeah. And it's already started like this year that it was like really sad for me.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that how, that's a downside of the kids, like not having the constant friends that,
Yeah.
maybe me and you remember from our childhood. But how amazing it is. This is the upside of your daughter being like
Yeah.
so brave. And then you could like you said, it's really resonated. Like you said, what could I have done with my life, or what is she going to do with her life when she is now like so brave? Like
Yes. And so
sometimes all
confident.
you need is a little bit of self-confidence, like now me
Yes.
thinking back, I'm like, oh my God, I could have done this and that, or done this sooner, or you know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
like if I wouldn't have that voice in my head saying, oh, what if you fail, or
Yeah. Yeah.
or so many people are doing it, why are you doing it? So I think
Exactly.
that is such an amazing strength that I'm sure it's just gonna be like
Thanks.
working for her.
I hope so. I try to like tell myself that, like you said, the positive aspects of this lifestyle outweigh all of the negative aspects, because like you said, there are a lot of negatives, like especially as she's gotten older and made friends in school. I feel
Mhm.
like we feel really guilty when we like move or when we're leaving, because now it's not just about us saying bye to people, it's about our kids too. And so I try to tell myself that like all of these life experiences she's having are going to be really, really beneficial and help her in the long run, and that will outweigh the hard goodbyes.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
absolutely.
time will tell.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I feel like the guys' careers are not that they're coming to an end anytime soon, but like it's on that side now.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what
we're
I
not
mean?
new anymore.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, first 2 years in EuroLeague, like,
Yeah,
woo, It's like,
exactly.
okay, now we're in Japan.
I know, and we're
So
like in
I
our
know that
30s.
when you asked me how was Japan last year, because we were here last year,
Yeah.
I hope I didn't scare.
No, no, you were honest. You were honest, and that's
Because
what
like
I
that's the
appreciate.
one thing that you can get from me is honesty. Like I literally I'm not, and I didn't try to. I like Japan. I don't want
Yeah.
to sound like I'm like, "Yeah, Japan is great," but like I said to you, it's probably was like such a hard timing for us to move from Monaco to Japan and to
Yeah.
the area in Japan that is like
And
snow
you
for
were way
7
up
months.
north too, right? Like
Yeah,
it was, yeah.
7 months is snow up high, and like
Yeah.
it's a cultural shock as no one language barrier. Although
Yeah.
France as well, but I feel like when I don't know if it's because I'm European and I know a European language as well as English that or two European languages as well as English. It's like I can communicate anywhere in Europe with people who say, "Oh, I don't speak English. Sorry." I'm like, "Don't worry, I'll figure it out. I'll
Yeah.
tell you everything you want."
Yes,
I like
it's different. It's different.
when you
Like,
come here, it's like I don't know even how to like make myself that you would understand me or I would
no,
understand you.
like
Like
there's
there's like
no
nothing. And they just keep repeating. If you ask them, they just keep
Yep.
repeating in Japanese. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah. And
okay,
I'm
no.
always like, gosh, I am flattered that you think I know any Japanese. Like I don't know anything that you're saying.
I know, I know. I was like, God, they just keep repeating. And I'm like, okay, I just need to. I get like, and I rarely get awkward or like weird, but I'm like, I just need
Yeah.
to remove myself from this conversation because it's just one way. I
But you
don't
know
know.
what? You know what I tell Aaron all the
But I don't
time?
want to
I
be
say
rude.
this, like living in these places where I literally can't communicate with people has really like helped me not be afraid to make a fool out of myself. You know what I mean? Like I will like play charades in order to have people understand what I am saying. I'm not afraid to use Google Translate. I'm not afraid to ask for help. Like whereas before, like started this whole journey 9 years ago, I probably would have been so like self-conscious and worried. And now I'm just like, well, yep, I'm the dumb American and I need help,
But
So,
I feel the same. I feel completely the same. So yeah, what I wanted to say, like last year was probably like way harder for me than this year is. And then you caught me
yeah.
at the not wrong time, but
No.
it was just like, oh, I was like overwhelmed. I was also alone for the
Yeah.
6 months of the season. Like there was
Makes a
no other
huge
wives.
difference. That makes a huge
So I was
difference.
like, oh, what am I doing here? Coming from south of France
Yeah.
to the north of
North of
Japan.
Japan.
I'm like with no one around, no one talking to me,
Yeah.
no, not even like a single wife on the team, like
Yeah.
not Japanese wife who I would be able to talk to. So I was just like, it was like a crisis in my head. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is where we are now,
And
and
you're
then
right, because it is a big culture shock. Like it's so different than every other part of the world, like all of Europe, So
yeah, yeah,
it's a
because I
big
feel like in
change.
Europe you can relate to things like that. You moved from France to Turkey to Montenegro to
Yeah.
Lithuania. Like there's still
There's a lot of
relatable
similarities
thing.
between all of
Yeah,
them. They're all very different, but there are some things that like you can find in,
you can find your constant and you sort of like go on with that. Like here it's like,
exactly.
okay,
Yeah.
hello Japan.
You're just thrown into the fire.
So last year I remember I recorded your message on Instagram and then I was like, I put the phone down and I think you didn't answer for like 24 hours or something. I was like, oh my God, I need
You're
to
like, I
record
scared
another
her.
because then I'm like, yeah, I was like, oh my God, she probably thinks I'm crazy. Like she thinks I'm crazy. I was like, okay, hey, so
I did not.
it wasn't that bad, like, but I just told you things that I like really.
You did not scare me. I like honesty, because I don't want to ask about somewhere and have everyone be like, it was amazing. And then you'd get there and be like, no one
Yeah.
warned me about this and this and this, So I
Yeah, but
appreciated
so
your
how was
honesty.
your first experience? Let's talk
Yeah.
about that.
Well, so Aaron like always wanted to play in Japan. So he like has been talking about this for years. Like he's just like he's been obsessed with the culture, the country, just everything. And I was always like, we cannot move to Japan. We have 4 kids. Like for some reason I just like had it in my mind that like as big of a family we couldn't live in Japan. And I was really, really like worried because I feel like I'm not an expert, but I felt like I had European living down. Like I had my like tips and tricks of how to live in each country and I knew how to make like things work in Europe, and I just felt really confident about that. And I was like, you're throwing me a total like this is like a total curveball that now I have to figure out Asia. Like I don't know how to do that. It took me 8 years to figure out Europe. And so I was really worried. Like to be honest, I was really hesitant. I was really worried. And we were so pleasantly surprised. Like we loved it. We absolutely loved it. I think I would never have gone to Japan any earlier in his career. Like I think it was just like the perfect time,
Yeah.
Like I loved all of our time in Europe and I loved like raising our kids when they were super little in Europe. And now I love that since my kids are getting a little bit older, my oldest are 6 and 8, the independence that they can have in Japan because it's so safe and it's so like kid friendly and the kids are able to do things on their own and it's like teaching them a lot of independence. So that aspect of Japan to me is like the best part of it because our kids can do things that they wouldn't be able to do living in other countries or cities,
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. And I saw your kids like having like was it Bosco who had to learn a dance?
yeah, they learned a traditional
Oh my God.
Japanese
I
dance.
was
And so
watching your video of that and I was like, I could
oh,
feel
I
it.
was like
I was like, oh
sobbing
my
because I'm
gosh,
like, this
stop.
is
Like
so
what is going
cool.
on? And it is really cool. Like
Yeah.
another thing, seeing kids so young, like just getting involved in the culture like that and just
Yes.
doing things. It's
Yeah.
incredible. And what does
I
it
also
do
think
for them? Wow.
I
I
also
think
think
it's just
like it felt really like special because we were the oddballs out, like in Japan, in our city, in the kids' schools, like we were totally the oddballs out. And everyone was so welcoming and inclusive of us. And that's like it made me feel so like loved and like our family felt so loved. And I think that like just heightened all the like, we were clearly the foreigners and like we didn't know Japanese, we were new to everything. And just the way that everyone like accepted us and included us and tried to make sure we knew what was going on or tried their best to explain things to us when they don't even speak English. it just like was so like heartwarming, because I'm like, you guys don't have to go out of your way to include us,
No.
and you are, you know? And so it just like felt really special for us as a family. I think this was the first year where basketball has been great. Like he loves basketball there, but also everything outside of basketball was really special to us, you know? And this was the first year where like the two felt separate and they were both really great, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
we've had years where the living for our family is great, but basketball wasn't going well, or where basketball's going well, but me and the kids aren't happy. And so it was so nice that they were both like, everyone was thriving, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's
So
another aspect of this kind of life. It's like it can be, oh, easy, so glamorous to live in all these countries, but like I feel like me and Brock say like if basketball is not great, nothing is great really. Like it's
nothing.
not
Yeah.
because like it's like but it's a big thing. It's a
Yeah.
big thing. It takes a toll on you and
It like
on the
everything
husbands
trickles down
obviously,
from
but on
basketball.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, yeah. Brock loves basketball here too. Like he's very happy. And I
Yeah.
think that both of Aaron and Brock are well appreciated here, which makes me at least like very happy, and I'm sure you're proud as
Yeah.
well, you
It
know?
feels good to have them like be respected and like valued, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And for like, you know, like Brock says, like I didn't work out my whole life and like train to sit on the bench, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So like being
And
able to
like,
play and like show off their talent, it's amazing, right?
and I
Well,
mean, this isn't to say anything bad about Europe, because like I said, I would never like take away from any of the time, like our time in
absolutely.
Europe. But I do feel like in Japan, like Aaron is treated way more like a human and like a person, rather than just someone like an athlete, you know, who's just like his only job is to play basketball, you
Yeah.
know?
Like you're paid now, like you're like a monkey in a circus, like that we use that term around our house. You're like,
Yeah.
you're paid, so now you perform.
Yep,
Like,
exactly. Like,
you know,
yes. As
and
if you
that's
have
like as
no
some basic
family, as if
way
you
to
don't
put
have
it.
any other stress in your life, as if
Yeah.
like, you know, I don't know. I just like, I can tell Aaron like feels like respected and valued, and it makes me feel good. And I'm sure you the same, because like we see all the hard work they're putting in, and like it's hard on them too. And so it's nice for them not to be treated so much like, yeah, like a monkey in a circus. That's a good analogy,
Yeah, like
because
I'm not trying to say it in any mean way, but you know, like it's I can put it like that. It's way less stress in Japan. Like
yes. Yeah.
and because like they are respected for what they have done in their
Hmm.
careers and for their talent as it is, it doesn't have to be, you know, they are not like they can just play their game. And it's
Yeah.
not
And
going to
it
be like
takes
if
a
they make
toll
a
on you.
mistake, if
Yeah.
they're making a mistake on the court, which happens to anyone and everybody,
Hmm.
everybody, right? Like they're not going to be taken off of the court because you're
Yeah.
and made feel like shit, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like you're no, like okay, you made a mistake. That's like it happens. Go play on. The next is
Yeah.
definitely not going to be a turnover because like you're talented like that. We respect you, and that I think. I mean that trust in the player, I think, gives them a lot of
It changes everything. It changes
yeah.
everything. Like, this is the first year in Aaron had a really gruesome injury 3
Oh
years
my god,
ago.
on the
Yeah.
arm, right? Oh my god.
And since then, it's been difficult because like he had such an awful traumatic injury, and this is like the first year since then where I feel like he's having fun playing basketball again, because yes, it is a job and it is like our livelihood, but it's also a game, and it's also supposed to be fun, you know, like it is supposed to be enjoyable. And
And I
so
feel like they are way they perform way better when they have that aspect of like, you know,
yes. And
of
it's
like
fun
that
for the kids. Like it's so much
lightness sort of in the game, like lightness in life,
yes.
lightness in the whole performance aspect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like not like carefree, because of course they're still
Yeah, no,
super
no, no, no.
competitive and want to win, but like it's just a different like air about him. And
There's no
it's
that extra stresses that like
yeah.
out of nowhere. Sometimes it's literally out of nowhere. You just like let them
Yep.
play the game.
And it's more fun for the kids to watch too. Like I like bringing my kids to watch him play, and like to like, because he's not being like totally disrespected, and he's not, you know, it's just like
Yes.
it just feels better for
Yeah.
this stage in our life. Like I said, I would not change like our 9 years previous to
Yeah,
this
yeah.
year in Japan.
I feel you
But
for sure, like every aspect. I
yeah,
feel like also we've been through our Aaron and Brock been through like a very similar journey
yeah,
in the sense of
exactly.
EuroLeague. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? They've been highs and lows, and they've experienced both, and
Yeah.
now they're like better for it. But also, and grateful for opportunities and everything, but this
Yeah.
is fun. This is way
Yeah.
more fun.
It is. It is. Like, bottom line, it's fun. It's fun again.
Yeah, no, it's nice, and it's nice to I feel like with Brock, have him at home when he feels like this,
Yeah.
rather than him coming home, and of course he doesn't want to bring it back, but you know, you
It's
know.
impossible not to. Yeah, it's impossible.
So that is definitely high of. What do you like in Japanese food? What
Okay, so I
I'm
am
going totally crazy, but I was like, wait, we were talking about Japan. Japanese food is like one of the things.
I am not like adventurous when it comes to food. Like, I don't like
Okay.
seafood, which is like such a cardinal sin for living in Japan. And I told myself this year, I was like, I'm gonna try things. Like, I'm just gonna try them because Aaron will like try anything, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so screwed living in Japan. I'm not gonna be able to eat anything. And so I like really tried a lot of new things, and I've learned that I like tuna, so I can eat like the raw tuna, like the
Oh, that's awesome.
sushi and everything. I love like udon and ramen and all of those things, but I still like need to work on being more adventurous because I don't like any sort of fish. So, but
Same.
I love the yakiniku restaurants where you like cook the
Oh
meat
my
in front of
god.
you.
Oh god.
I love those. So yeah, I mean, I do like it. I'm just not a very like adventurous eater, so I need to like keep trying to branch out and try and
I
try
feel
new
like I
things.
feel like you're Brock and I'm Aaron. Like
Yeah, really?
we're the same, just like the opposites. Like I don't have trouble anywhere. Like I can go and I'm like, yeah, I'll fine. I felt something. Like I
Yeah,
like to try new things, and of course, sometimes I just like default to things I know more, and I
yeah,
wish I could be even more, adventurous with things.
yeah.
But yeah, I love food here. I think it's been one of the coolest things like to try.
I think food in Japan is like so fresh and healthy, and like it's like I've been home in America for not even 2 weeks and I already like feel different eating here than I did in Japan. So I think it says a lot about like the quality of food and like
Yeah.
how, sustainable everything is there and how it's all local rice that you're eating and everything. So I love that aspect of it. And my kids will literally try anything in Japan. Like they loved Japanese food. So they were like inspiring me to be more adventurous because I didn't want them to see me not trying something and then it would make them not try it,
Absolutely.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
sure, I'll try the squid ring, and I'm like trying to
Try it with a straight face.
yeah, I'm like, yum, it's chewy. But overall, we really do like the food there. I'm the least daring one of my family, so I just need to work on that.
That's awesome. That's cool. I love that your kids also are such adventurous eaters. That's the best.
Yeah, we've lucked out. They're really awesome in that aspect.
We've been loving the rice balls now lately, Mab and I.
Oh, it's so funny because when I told my family that, they're like, "What do you mean rice balls?" I'm like, "It's like literally a ball of rice, and my kids will eat like 2 a day."
Or we've like the 7-Eleven ones with my favorites,
Yep.
like with a little bit of tuna mayo.
Yeah, that's Micah's favorite.
Sold. Sold. I'm like, I'm going to the train too, and I'll like just see 7-Eleven. This is my train snack.
Exactly. So different.
I love that. Absolutely. That's such an easy thing to have as well.
And healthy.
Yeah, exactly. And like you can literally snack on that anytime you want.
Yeah.
I want to find the questions that I have from
Okay.
mine and yours, well, our audience, because I know
Okay.
I have a few for you, and I was so happy with the involvement of everybody this time. And I even got questions, like I told you before. I even got questions in Lithuanian, which is so. It's crazy.
I
Like
love
that means that
that.
Lithuanian people are still following your journey, which is so nice.
I love
I
that.
love that about Lithuanians, that when they love a player and the family, they're like
They're the best
connected.
people, and I'm not just saying this, Martina. Like I really like the best. We met the best people in Lithuania. We had such amazing people we met there. So
I'm so happy to hear that. All right, wait. This is okay. There's a question from Aimita. I'm just gonna read out the name. So
okay,
and it's in Lithuanian, but I'm gonna translate. This says, tell me, actually it's to do with Ukraine. So tell me
okay.
how you felt when you, and I'm
Wow.
not sure if it's well, you're gonna fact check this out for me, but how did you feel that when you said your opinion about the war in Ukraine? Did you and your family got some hate in Serbia? I was not aware about it, if that happened, but
That is verified. I'm trying to think how I want to answer this because that whole thing really taught me that I shouldn't say a lot, because bottom line is I am against the war in Ukraine. Bottom line. I support Ukrainians. I was against what Russia did to them, but it was a really tricky situation because Aaron was playing in Serbia at the time. Serbia is allies with Russia, and the whole thing became very political. But because of my love for Lithuania, and for the fact that I do feel like Lithuania will always have a piece of our heart, it was really, really disheartening to me that at the time, Aaron's team, I'm trying to think how to word this so I don't get myself into trouble, basically didn't want to say anything about the war. All of the EuroLeague teams at the time.
So you're referring, this was whole, sorry, I'm going to just a step before. This was because I want to put myself in the, so this was the whole thing about the team not standing out, not holding the flag.
The team didn't hold the flag. Red Star did not hold the Ukrainian flag at the time, which I can understand if you are Serbian, because it becomes political for them.
Yeah.
I'm not Serbian. I would never pretend to understand what they went through in all of the war atrocities they have faced. I am not, I have nothing to I don't know what that is like. I was only sad about the fact that it felt disrespectful to Lithuanian people that it happened in Žalgiris' gym. And I don't think that the fact that you are anti-war needs to be political. I'm anti all war. I'm anti-war in Ukraine. I'm anti the war back in the 90s between NATO and Serbia. Name a war, I'm against it. So the problem is yes, I got a lot of hate from Serbian fans. I got so much hate that I had to block. People were threatening the lives of my children.
You put something on Instagram, and that's how you started getting hate, right?
Yep. I can't remember what I said. I think I said something like, I said that I was against the war.
Mm-hmm.
I made that very clear. And it turned into me getting death threats, Serbian fans, Red Star fans threatening the lives of my children, saying they knew where we lived and they would kill my kids, it was really, really bad, Martyna.
That was terrible.
I deleted blocked all these people on Instagram, blocked all these people on Twitter. I was so upset because I felt like there's a really long, complicated history between Serbia and America and NATO. And I'm not going to even pretend to understand that because it all happened prior to me being born. And it was really upsetting to me that the fact that I said I was against the war turned into me being also against Serbia, and so, especially because we loved our time in Serbia. I loved Belgrade. I loved living there. I loved, as crazy as Red Star fans can be, we loved it. And Aaron was injured for a lot of the year, but we really, our kids loved it. We felt like it was an awesome place for our family, and it ended on such a sour note because of that. And, yeah, it was sad. I was really disappointed with the way.
It's a bit sad for me that people take it so personally, in the sense that if you, when you say against war, period, any war, and then everybody internalizes it and then takes it the way they want to take it. And then it was I think a tricky situation for everyone. I'm sure for Aaron as well, being on the court and not being able to do that, what he maybe felt
like he couldn't do anything because he didn't want to go against his team, but he also he would never do that, and he didn't want to disrespect his Serbian teammates and his Serbian coach and all of Serbia. But he also felt
play in that country, so it's sort of okay, I can't go against.
But he also just so happened to be in Žalgiris' gym, so it was this really awkward, tough situation, and I'm watching it all unfold, and I'm getting messages from Lithuanian people who I felt like they
internalized it too, and then because they're we support Ukraine, and then Aaron, who we thought was our guy, kind of, right?
And
our guy,
back,
and now he's standing there.
Just not said anything, but I also didn't want. To me, the war is very one-sided. So to me, I didn't want that war is very one-sided. I'm not talking about other wars, just the war in Ukraine. And so to me, it was an easy stance to take because I didn't want, Lithuanian people to think that just because we were living in Serbia, I agreed with Russia's actions. That's all that it was about. And it turned into this really big thing. And I felt like I didn't know how to even get myself out of it because I didn't want Serbian people to think I was okay with what happened in the 90s, what America did to them, which I'm totally not okay with. But I also don't think it's okay what Russia was doing to Ukraine. So I was like, I just learned I have to shut my mouth, apparently, about things like that become political because it's really way beyond my realm of understanding, you know?
Yeah.
And
But those people who I'm not saying that I don't think people who give you death threats, they can't
well, that was
understand
where I
everything
drew the
either.
line. That's where I'm like, okay, you can have political disagreements with me. That's just part of being a human being. But you don't get to like threaten my kids and threaten me, you know? So,
But also I feel like it's another, I mean, with all the love for Serbia and Serbian fans, but this comes from me. I
yeah, I
think that
mean, they
they
truly are
love
like,
taking things overboard. Like we
yeah,
know with fandom there.
they're passionate. They're
Amazing
really
and
passionate people.
passionate, but then they like take that extra step that is also not needed sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Like when I was in Belgrade for the first time, that's when I met you as well, that trip. And
Yeah.
I'm going around and I see like, the rivalry between those clubs is intense. And I see
Yes.
like there's
Yeah.
like partisan, and then there's a name of a young man and it says his birthday and death date. And I'm
Yeah.
like, so obviously you died in fights against each other, and
Yeah.
that to me insane in itself puts it into like it's not it reaches another level,
Yeah. I
that
mean,
that
like,
level that I think should not be reached when people are either death threatening each
yes.
other, like kids or each other, or even killing each other because
Yeah.
of fandom and or their
It's so
political beliefs,
unfortunate. Like, because I mean, that's probably the best basketball atmosphere that like I've ever been a part of.
Absolutely,
And you
yes.
have to respect like their passion and their like just so I met amazing Serbian people. I loved we loved our time in Serbia. And like I said, I just felt like there wasn't the problem was is there was a line that was crossed. Like I totally respect how passionate they are about their political beliefs. I think everyone is entitled to have passionate political beliefs. I just wish the lines didn't get so crossed and that people didn't interpret what I was saying for disrespect towards them. Like it became so convoluted that I couldn't. There was no way for me to make a statement and please everyone, because like
Yeah,
that can't happen with politics.
yeah,
It just can't.
yeah.
So, yeah.
I get that. I'm sorry that you were in this situation. I could just imagine if being like, being in a situation where you're getting death threats for your kids.
Yeah.
That's like that is
It
every
was
line possible that's crossed there. Every
yeah.
possible line. Like
Yes, exactly.
you don't do that. This is your belief and this is my belief, and that's
Yeah.
where the kind of stance that everyone should
And
come
you can
from.
hate me for my belief against
Yeah.
the war. That's
And you can
fine.
also argue, but also I would say you can
Yeah.
discuss rather than that. Like what intelligent people would do is discuss rather than go on like death threatening each other. But so
Yeah.
it's just like I don't know.
Or
In
just
any
like,
in any situation.
talk bad about me behind my back. You don't have to
Yeah.
you don't have to threaten my
Oh,
life.
Grace, she said this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally see that. Okay, let's close this topic. This is a bit a bit
Dramatic.
yeah, dramatic. And I'm trying not to say the wrong thing because
Yeah.
I definitely agree on like Serbian because of their passion for things. They have the best basketball atmosphere in Europe.
Yes.
But
100%.
also when Brock was playing and he had a good game against the Serbian team, he would get death threats in his Instagrams too.
Yeah.
Like on his socials. So it's like can you have one without another? That would be perfect. But I don't think
and
they
you
can.
can.
But in the normal world, they can, but I don't think there. I think they're just so passionate about everything that then the
Yeah.
passion turns into hate and then turns
Mhm.
into like, I wish your whole family would die because that was said.
Exactly.
And that's like, and that's the kind of thing like, can we please have the basketball and the passion and then just stop right there?
Yes. And then just end it.
Yeah. Okay. So another question from the same person was if you, the things that you love the most and not in Lithuania and maybe something you didn't like.
I didn't like. Okay. I loved the fans. Like I loved Žalgirio Arena. Like I just felt like every game was so fun and the fans were so loyal. I like loved that, even if they like had a loss in a hard game, it felt like everyone was like really supportive and was like rooting for them. I loved the people we met. I loved the bread at Dia, that restaurant downtown.
With that, oh my
The
God, with that
brown bread.
garlic butter.
Me and Aaron still talk about that bread.
That bread.
Casa de la
Shout out to
Pasta.
Dia.
Like we went to that restaurant all the time, like especially after games and stuff because they were open late.
You know what Brock says? Brock says that he sponsored one of them to open another branch because with first year
By
in
the end of the year, everyone was like, "We can't go there again." I'm like, "It's
but
only
you
just
end up because
open."
it's so good.
Yeah, and it's so good.
Before
I'm
I
like,
met him, like the first year in Tigers, he ate there once a day, every day for sure, and maybe twice.
yeah, for sure, because they had good breakfast.
I was
They
like,
have good
dude, like you have to calm down,
You
like
have to branch
explore a
out.
little. But he would call and they would know his name, like they would know the number. So like, hey, Brock, is it the same order? He's like, yep. And he's the man
They
of
knew
his
him by heart.
rituals. He orders the same thing every single day. So that just would be a very short conversation. Then we come to Lithuania now and they have another branch and another branch. You know,
They
like they have
do. They've
yeah.
expanded.
So like Brock is like 100% that's like on me.
Yeah, I funded
as
that.
a joke. But if for real from Žalgiris players, for sure we
yes,
have sponsored one of them.
It was like after every home game, that's where we would be.
Okay, sorry, I interrupted you.
No.
Continue your list. I love it.
I'm trying to think what I didn't like. The weather was hard, you know, like because it's so cold. I mean, I'm from Chicago, so like we're used to like cold winters, but like I just felt like by February, you're like, okay, like I just need some spring, like some sunlight, you know.
Sunlight. That's definitely.
That's probably the only thing I didn't like would be like the weather. Like that was the part I struggled.
Did you try Lithuanian food? I know you're not adventurous. I've learned that, but did you try something?
Okay, what are those like chocolate? There's like a chocolate baked good. It's like a roll.
Chocolate roll.
It's
like a pastry sort of?
It's like a sweet. It's like a chocolate cookie. It starts with a K, I want to say.
Chocolate cookie.
I'm gonna have to look it up and let you know the name of it.
Please, I'll put it here. What we're talking about. I'll put a picture or whatever.
There's like a chocolate. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think of how to explain it. I actually don't know if you bake it or if it's a no bake like cookie, but it's like chocolate and like almost like, have you had like a Rice Krispie from America?
Yeah,
it's similar to that, but it was chocolate, and they told me it was like this Lithuanian cookie.
Okay, I can't.
I'm gonna have to do some like Google searching and deep dive. I tried that. I was pregnant with my third there, so I was really sick. So I really wasn't like trying a lot of fun foods and things. And like I said, I'm not the most adventurous eater, but so no, I can't really name any like traditional Lithuanian dishes that I tried.
There's just a lot of potatoes. A
lot of potatoes. Yeah.
Fast introduction to Lithuanian cuisine.
So no, I didn't really get to try anything like that was, you know, traditional Lithuanian.
Well, I mean, maybe
I need to go back.
I need to one day in somewhere close around. I'll introduce you to one of my favorite dishes.
Please.
Okay, well that's good enough. I mean, the weather is tough in Lithuania, and anyone could every Lithuanian would agree with that. We call it like, you know, those Lithuanian. I'm sure you would know, like it's one of our like traditional dishes is like a potato dumpling.
Yes. Okay.
And you know when you boil potatoes, they become this gray color.
Yeah.
So we call it the sky of the color of the sky in Lithuania.
Yeah,
we call it
that's
like that
accurate.
Like it's literally like gray.
Gloom. It's like always gloomy. Yeah, it kind of makes you like sad.
For sure. Then Vesna is asking, how does she do it? I also want to know, Grace, how do you do it with 4 small kids moving every so often? Hats off to Grace.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, I like have a couple mental breakdowns every year, you know, that's
I love that you're keeping it real, because like,
a lot of stress.
You know, when you see it from the side, it feels like, oh my God, she has like 10 arms and she does not sleep.
It's smoke and mirrors. Like, that's what I say. It's all an illusion, you know, like there's so many like stressful, chaotic, like me losing my mind behind the scenes, you know, it's just like, it's just a lot. So I do not do it all. I just, I feel like after 9 years of doing this, we have our priorities and we know like what we have to prioritize to get our family situated and keep our family happy. And that's what we really focus on. And everything else is just an added bonus if it works out, you know?
What are some of those priorities, like non-negotiables for you when you move?
Well, now that our kids are school age, like it's like a good school for them, or if it's not even educational wise, but just like them to have a community. That is like a non-negotiable for us. Like this past year in Japan, we didn't know if the kids were going to be able to get into the international school or not. And it caused a lot of stress because like we didn't want to spend the year apart, but we
Mhm.
also knew that we had to make it feel good for our kids to be there. And so like somewhere where our kids can thrive and have friends and have a community, for sure. The living, like where we live is always like really, really important. Like the location, the house, because I've learned as I've gotten older, I'm a homebody. Like we like to be at home. We like to be at home as a family. We have dinners at home. And so like where we live is really, really important. And Aaron is always like, you take full, like you let me know where you want to live and we will make it happen because he knows that that's like super important to me. Um, and then also just like our family being together, like as a family unit. Like right now we're spending time apart and it's because of like it was better for one of our children to be home right now rather than start a new school year in Japan because the school years are different in Japan than in
Yeah.
America. But like it's so silly, but everything is just better when we're together, like as a family of six.
That's
It just
yeah.
is like we function better as a family. The kids are like happier when they're with both mom and dad. And so we've had to spend a lot of time apart over the past like 4 years because of like pregnancies and health reasons and COVID and all this stuff. And this year, spending like the whole year together in Japan, I'm like, this is it. Like this is where we thrive when we're together as a family and we have a sense of community. And like that to me now is like a non-negotiable, like just being together as a family unit.
That's completely understandable. Okay, another one from Regilla. Greetings from Konas to Bosco. Grace is a super woman, no questions. Well,
Oh,
yes.
well, that's really nice. I am not, but
Yeah,
I really appreciate the compliment.
well,
And we love
truly, I feel
Conus.
like it's for sure straight to the point there. Um, Asmer say asking, what is your favorite baby item you have used for all babies? I
Oh,
want to know. I want to know.
okay, like a wrap, like a baby wrap.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Oh, like carrier type,
yes, like
but just
baby
a wrap.
wearing. I
Mhm.
loved like the Solly wrap when they're really little. Like it's just fabric. So there's no like buckles and things like that because when they're so little, it's like just comfy and you can just have them on you all the time. And then as they get older, like I really love my Art of Poppy carrier because it's
Me too.
the best.
Yeah, I
I
literally wanted to get the same color like you, and then I ended up going for the light one. But
see, I
but
wanted the lighter one. I feel like I should have
I was
gotten
worried with the light one because it would get like all messy, and
stained. Yeah.
I got such a big coffee stain there yesterday, so I need to wash it. But that's what I was worried. But those Artie Pop, I don't know how you pronounce it really,
Yeah, I
but
don't know how if I'm saying it correctly, but
yeah. But apparently they are made in Lithuania. This is a Dutch
are they
brand.
really?
Yes, they're sewn in Lithuania. I guess
Oh,
the
how
cheaper
cool.
labor than Netherlands, but it's a Dutch brand, and yeah, I honestly just someone just really recently told me this when I was wearing. I was like, oh, cool.
They're the
I guess
best. I
Lithuania is
like
big on linen and that, and a lot of them
okay.
are made from linen.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's why I like them then. But yeah, I feel like baby wearing has like saved my life because when you have multiple and you or like even going to the games and like just having to have your hands free. Yeah, I'm a big
Yeah,
baby wearer. So I mean my son is like almost over he's like over 30 pounds and I still wear him. So
I love that, and he still wants to be worn.
yes.
Can I say
Yep.
that?
Yeah, he still wants to be worn.
So because Mav, like once he started walking, it was tough. I remember when he was 1 year old, I was traveling from Paris to Lithuania, and whoa, I only put him in the airport because I was like, I have all these
You
bags to check
yeah,
in.
you have to get
He That was the last time I wore him because it just I got punched and hit and
yeah,
kicked,
he
and I
wants
was
to get
like,
out.
this is
Yeah.
not gonna work. So I'm happy that you
Yeah,
can
he
still wear
only
him.
I'll put him in like when he like naps, like on the go. So he kind of knows that's like when he falls asleep. So it's nice.
Oh,
And he's
that's
like
sweet.
my last baby, so I just like want to baby him forever.
No, I know. That's so sweet. Okay, so we got the answer for anyone who was wondering if they're gonna have more kids.
Yeah, I think we are maxed out at 4.
Oh, and then Linden, Craig. Sorry if I'm mispronounced. There's a lot of letters there. How much do you miss living in the States full time?
I go through like spurts, like especially around the holidays. I really miss like living in the States because I miss like being around our family. And like I said, I get like that mom guilt where I'm like, oh, like I should have my kids home with like their aunts and their grandparents. Um, but then like all the experiences and the way we live life overseas, like that outweighs it. But you have to ask me on like different days. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's like the emotions are so different. And I
What
always remind myself that like one day we're going to be living in the States year round, and I'm probably going to be like bored. Like I'll be like, dang, remember when we moved to all these countries and like lived in all these places? So, it's not for forever.
That's absolutely like I feel like when the time is gonna come when we're in one place, I'll feel like that after a few months you're like, okay, so what's next?
Yeah, you like get the itch, I'm like, I need some chaos in my life.
All
So.
facts for sure. For sure. Okay. So one more question. Jess is asking, how did you like your experiences in Japan, and how about the kiddos? So I guess we kind of answered that question unless you have anything more that you can fill in for the question, like you can
No, I
say
mean, we loved it. We really, really loved it. We're hoping to be back. Like Aaron doesn't have a contract this summer, so we don't know where we're going to be next year, but we are really hoping to be back in Japan, and we just loved it. The way I loved the lifestyle there, like the way that they prioritize families, children, spending time outside, healthy food, like we talked about. Yeah, really big fan of Japan. I think it's so hard to compare because like we said, Europe and Japan is so different, but like the same, like we had this like feeling in Lithuania that felt like it was like home,
yeah.
and it was also kind of the same feeling we had when we lived in Belgrade, because like our kids were all in school and we had friends, and it was like this good feeling, and we have that in Japan. And so I think that like it feels really good to know that, because like as as a mother, when you're like uprooting your whole family and like moving across the world, it has to be beneficial, not just for their basketball career, but for everyone, in order
Yeah.
to make us not like question everything that we're doing. And so I feel really like at peace with knowing, like hoping, I guess, that we'll continue to live in Japan.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think so too. And I think like last year, even though it was hard for me personally, especially because I'm like, I'm a social I'm a social
Yeah,
person that you
yeah.
want to talk to. And that was like one of the one of the worst parts for me. But other
Yeah.
than that, like it's like you said, it's a great country for kids. It's
Hmm.
safe, and I don't, I'm not questioning him, like if he's in the park and there's a lot of kids, like I'm like, okay, I can see him from a little far and he's
Yeah.
playing. I don't need to like be stuck on his back and be like, oh,
Yeah.
guarding
It's
him
made
if
me like a
everything is
less
okay.
anxious
Like,
mother, like because I know like it's the safety thing is you can't put a price on that, So
absolutely. And yes, the food and everything. That's for sure.
yeah.
Um, Jessica is asking, does she know how amazing she is as a wife and a
Oh,
mom?
that's really nice. Tell that to Aaron. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, Aaron, I'm sure he knows. I am sure he knows how lucky he is.
That's really sweet.
Okay. So that is oh, actually no, there was one more. Sorry. Did you guys sleep train any of the kids? And if you did, how did you go with all the
Oh
travel?
God. There are a lot of things I will give advice about as a mom of four. Sleep is not one of them because our kids like we're terrible. We're terrible. No, no one slept through the night until they were like almost two. My older two like slept in bed with me and Aaron until like 2 years ago. So do not ask me for sleep advice.
Did you ever
Anything
try sleep
else?
training or no?
We eventually like we did like with Bosco. Yeah, actually we did, but it was only because I was like pregnant with the next baby and I was like so sick and I was still like waking up and breastfeeding the other child all night, and I'm like, okay, something's got to give here. Like this can't keep going. So by the time we like sleep trained them, they were like 1.5 or like 20
Mhm.
months old, and it wasn't really like sleep training. It was more like, okay, you have to sleep on like in your own bed now, like mommy can't do this
Oh,
anymore.
yeah, for sure.
But But then after that, like once I had the new baby, then I would bring them back in bed with me. So, but with all of the moving and all of the changing, like it's hard to stay consistent with like sleep with the kids,
Yeah.
because you're moving rooms, you're moving cribs, you're moving everything. And so, um, that's,
So
yeah.
much changes for them, the poor little things that
Yeah,
like
so sometimes, and also like I don't know how you are, but when Aaron is gone, like I used to love having the kids sleep with me because like he'd be gone for like 5 nights and I'd be like, well, yay, come in mommy's bed. So
same.
I developed a lot of bad sleeping habits. So do not take sleep advice from me.
Talking about the one thing that I also always like make sure I follow when you travel is
Oh,
like tell me how, because I know there are moms who are scared to travel with one kid.
yeah.
And and I think like, oh, well, I've now traveled alone with two, with Millie as a newborn and Mav. But
Yeah, you're awesome at traveling and doing things with the kids.
like I think like my like I don't know, I'm starting with my advice just because I was thinking about it recently because I wanted to ask you this question. And I was thinking my advice is like, I don't know why women are scared because I've been talking to someone who are just scared to travel with the one kid.
Yeah.
And I feel like the worst that can happen is that you're going to be tired.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, what is the worst
Yeah,
that can happen?
because
Your kid is
literally you're
screaming and some
exhausted.
crabby person at the plane gives you a dirty look. Like, who cares? Like, you're
True.
never going to see that person again. That's what I always tell myself. Like, my kids are allowed to have feelings and they're allowed to be tired and they're allowed to be cranky because I'm tired and cranky from traveling, so of course they are. And so, like, what is the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's always just kind of been my mindset. And my mindset is like, it's one day. Like this travel is one
That's
day. We just got to get through this
exactly what I
one
think.
brutal day. Like we can do it.
And after that, like we come to daddy or you come home to the family or, it's either that
Yes.
or that. So it's like,
Uh-huh.
and it's going to be fine. Like we're
Yeah.
going to be good. Like that's
Mhm.
exactly what I think. But when it comes to traveling and preparation, maybe, do you have any like tips and tricks apart,
Okay.
like snacks, maybe one
Lots of
thing that you,
snacks. Always, always, always bring an extra set of clothes for everybody, including the mom, because I swear the only times I have not brought extra outfits is the times that like someone throws up all over me or like someone spills an entire water bottle all over themselves. And I'm like, we still have 16 hours of travel left and I don't have clothes for you. So I've learned the hard way. Like, don't ever be like, we'll be fine. Always bring an extra set of clothes for everyone. Um, Lots of snacks. I usually try to like pack their like bags full of like things that are new, like a new sticker book. But also I keep it like really minimal because when you're packing for like when I have one kid, I would bring Micah like so many fun little arts and crafts to do on the plane. But now I have four. So I can't carry everyone's like arts and craft kits on the plane. So I really just bring like a couple snacks. I always bring like a sucker for emergencies, like or for like when the plane is taking off for them to suck on. And then I pretty much let them watch whatever they want on the like TV screens the whole time. Because we're kind of strict about like screen time at home. And so on the airplane, I'm like, much as you want, go crazy, and they think
yeah.
it's like a blast. They have so much fun. Like they get to watch as many movies as they want the whole time because I just can't like carry enough activities for
Of
everyone.
course. Of course. No, that's, and also when you don't have a lot of screen time at home, then they feel like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, it's
And
like the
then it's
best
like,
day of their life. They're like, we
and
get to
it's
watch
not
movies
gonna
the
do
whole
anything
time.
bad for them because
Yeah.
exactly.
Because again, I'm like,
Yeah.
it's one day. Like it's one day, of like this brutal travel and we just have to get through it. But
Absolutely.
also I feel like when you travel, and this is advice for moms, like have you ever heard like horses and animals can pick up on your energy? So like when you approach like a scared animal, like if you're going to be like anxious with them, then they're going to get like afraid. And so I have to remind myself that like when we're traveling, because I've noticed like when I get stressed out and like rushing the kids, or if I get like, then they pick up on that and then they're just like worse. Whereas if I'm like super calm and I keep my energy like really level, then they feed off of that. So like we've even done silly things where I'm like, okay, like we can do it, guys. We just have to get to this gate. Like, come on, like, rather than like, come on, like, hurry up, let's go. I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
it,
yeah.
it seems so silly, but they totally feed off your energy. So
You know,
like if you're stressed out and anxious the whole time, they're going to be like the same way, and it's going to be brutal for everyone involved.
Literally, this same advice was given to me on my very first flight with Mav, and he
Yeah.
was 2 weeks old. And, you know, I was not scared, but it was COVID time. So
Oh,
I was like, there were many things to add on, like just a regular flight,
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and plus 2 weeks, I'm first time mom with a 2 week old, first time, breastfeeding in public. I have this 2 week old baby and I'm flying with, and she was like, she passed me the one of those extra seat belts, and she says, I said, like, do you have, me, I'm just trying to make small talk. I was like, do you have any advice for me? It's our first flight
Yeah.
together. And she goes, you know what? Just know, however you feel, the baby is gonna feel.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, really? I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And to this day, now you say the same thing, and it's so true. It's so
so
true. I feel
true.
like, yeah, if you're as a mom, but in many situations as well, if you're as a mom,
Yeah.
stressful and whatever,
It's
they're gonna.
even like when you're at the grocery store, like if I start to get like snippy and annoyed with them at the grocery store, or like stressed out, like then the whole trip gets ruined. Whereas if you just try to like make it fun, even though it's chaotic and sometimes it doesn't go as quickly or smoothly as you want it to, it's always more
Yeah,
enjoyable, And I still have to remind myself of that. It's not like it's that simple for me either, but it's like, it's so true.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, Grace, this has been so, 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 so nice to talk to you. I'm
I
so
know.
grateful, and
I
I'm
love
so
getting to
sorry
talk
that
to
you
you.
have your bedtime now. It's gonna be
It was well worth it to get to talk to you. So thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, this was great, and thanks for everybody who actually asked the questions, because the questions were great, and I'm just so happy that Grace is so loved, and not just
Oh,
I'm not the only admirer of your hard work with the kids, and it's just, yeah,
thank
you're doing
you.
amazing. It doesn't go unnoticed from
Thank you.
everyone out here in the Basque community.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for coming on, and yeah, thank you for answering all these questions. I hope that you keep having amazing experiences, whatever you guys end up next year, and maybe, God knows, when we can talk about it all again.
I know. I'm hoping to see you in person, like because we haven't seen each other in a while, and now we hopefully live in the same country. So
Yeah, so yeah, maybe we can arrange a meeting next year, if that would
yeah.
work. That would be great.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, and thank you guys for watching.